Chicago, we need to talk. Because while half this city was arguing about whether the Bears would leave the state entirely, a couple of Illinois power players were quietly drawing up their own trick plays. Two brand new proposed stadium sites right here, right under our noses, designed to do one thing and one thing only: keep the Bears from becoming the Indiana Bears. And folks, the timing could not be wilder, because just as these proposals were heating up, the Bears board of directors did something they had never done in this entire 5-year saga. They voted, for real, on paper, to move forward with Hammond, Indiana. So buckle up, because this is the story of a football team standing at the goal line of leaving its home state for the first time in over 100 years, and the last-ditch scramble from Illinois to stop it from happening. Let's set the stage, because if you haven't been glued to this saga the way some of us have, you deserve a quick recap before your head spins. The Chicago Bears have played their home games in Illinois since 1920. When they weren't even the Bears yet, they were the Decatur Staleys. They've called Soldier Field home since 1971, and for more than 50 years, that lakefront stadium has been the smallest in the entire NFL, with basically zero room to grow. The team doesn't even own it. They rent it from the Chicago Park District like a tenant paying rent on an apartment they've completely outgrown. So a few years back, ownership started hunting for a new place to call home, and in 2023 they dropped roughly $200 million on 326 acres of land in Arlington Heights, the old Arlington International Racecourse, about 30 miles northwest of the city. The plan was big. We're talking a $5 billion vision complete with an enclosed dome capable of hosting Super Bowls and Final Fours, plus a sprawling entertainment district around it. For a while, that felt like the answer. But here's where the drama kicked in. And honestly, this is where the whole thing turns into something you'd expect on a soap opera, not a football broadcast. Illinois lawmakers in Springfield have spent years dragging their feet on the property tax certainty the Bears wanted before breaking ground. Round after round of legislative sessions came and went without a deal. And then, in a letter to fans, Bears President Kevin Warren dropped a bombshell. State leadership, he said, had told him directly that the stadium project would not be a priority. Not exactly the warm welcome a franchise wants to hear after spending $200 million on dirt. So Warren announced the team was expanding its search beyond Illinois entirely into northwest Indiana. Just 15 miles from Soldier Field as the crow flies, but a universe away in terms of what it would mean for this city's identity. And then it happened. The moment a lot of Bears fans hoped would never come. After Illinois adjourned its spring legislative session without passing the measure that would have cleared a path for stadium authorities in both Arlington Heights and Chicago, the Bears board of directors met and did something unprecedented in this entire saga. They voted officially to advance their stadium development project in Hammond, Indiana. Let that sink in for a second. This wasn't another leaked rumor or anonymous source whispering to a reporter. This was the actual board: Chairman George McCaskey, President and CEO Kevin Warren, and the rest of ownership, putting their name on paper and pointing the compass toward the Hoosier state. The statement from McCaskey and Warren framed it as a unifying moment, saying a stadium in Hammond would connect northwest Indiana to the south side of Chicago and bring Chicagoland together. Try telling that to a die-hard fan who's been tailgating outside Soldier Field since they were old enough to hold a brat. Now here's the part that should make every Bears fan sit up straight. One league source told ESPN's Adam Schefter, and I'm going to keep this in my own words because it hit like a gut punch, that barring something truly bizarre happening, this thing is basically locked in. Indiana didn't just roll out the red carpet, they backed up a truck full of money. Hoosier lawmakers authorized a brand new stadium authority that could pump at least $1 billion taxpayer dollars into this dome, funded through new taxes on admissions, hotel stays, food, drinks, and even a toll hike. The Bears, who've committed $2 billion of their own money to construction wherever they land, would keep every single dollar of revenue the building generates, and they'd even have the option to buy the stadium outright for a single dollar once the 40-year bonds taxpayers are covering get paid off. That is, and I cannot stress this enough, an absolutely tantalizing deal for an ownership family that has been begging for certainty for half a decade. But before you go ahead and start designing your Indiana Bears merch, hold on, because this story has more twists than a Soldier Field tunnel on a Sunday in December. Even after that board vote, sources have been careful to say this isn't fully, completely, 100% over. The exact site within Hammond hasn't even been picked yet. The leading candidate appears to be land near Wolf Lake, possibly involving the Lost Marsh Golf Course, but the team still has to navigate environmental permits, traffic studies, and a mountain of bureaucratic red tape before a single shovel touches dirt. And get this. A source close to the situation told reporters the announcement didn't eliminate Arlington Heights from the conversation if, and it's a big if, Illinois lawmakers can finally cough up the property tax certainty the Bears have wanted from the jump. Springfield's Senate and House don't reconvene until the fall, and there's real uncertainty about whether that timeline is simply too slow for a franchise that's run out of patience. So while Indiana popped champagne and Illinois leaders scrambled, two homegrown proposals emerged from right here in Illinois, both designed as a Hail Mary to keep the Bears from crossing that state line for good. And folks, these are not boring backroom whispers. These are wild, ambitious, occasionally hilarious pitches that deserve their own spotlight. First up, the Old South Works site. This one comes courtesy of State Representative Curtis Tarver, who's pushing hard for this stretch of land on Chicago's southeast side right along the lakefront. And here's the kicker. This site reportedly has even more acreage than the old Arlington Racecourse, and unlike Arlington Heights, it sits inside the actual city limits of Chicago. Picture this. Instead of the Bears playing in a far-flung suburb, they're anchored on the lakefront with the L train rumbling nearby, two major highways feeding right into it, and a brand-new high-tech development called Quantum Shore already breaking ground just up the road. This area has spent decades known mostly for its industrial past, its steel mills, its working-class grit. Now imagine a glittering football city rising out of that same soil right alongside the beaches and the new development already underway. It's the kind of redevelopment story that could transform an entire side of the city, not just give the Bears a new home. But, and you knew there had to be a but, this site comes with a geography problem that's everyone is trying to avoid crossing. Representative Tarver himself acknowledged the awkward truth here, essentially saying that if it really comes down to a choice between Arlington Heights and Hammond, it would actually be better for us to stay. But nobody wants to be the side of town that gets steamrolled by stadium traffic and construction without getting the actual economic win. And let's pump the brakes on one other thing while we're here, because there's been a narrative floating around that the Bears completely washed their hands of Chicago and never even looked back. Not exactly true. Senator Bill Cunningham has pointed out that the Bears have actually met repeatedly with city officials over the past several months to discuss exactly this kind of opportunity, even while publicly insisting Arlington Heights and Hammond were the only two sites on the table. So somewhere behind closed doors, conversations about keeping this team in the city proper have absolutely been happening, even if ownership wasn't exactly shouting it from the rooftops. Now let's talk about door number 2. And this one is, I promise you, the most unexpected name to enter the Bears Stadium conversation in this entire 5-year saga. Makuk, Illinois. If you just said where, out loud, you are far from alone. Mayor Taryn Carr made his pitch directly, sending letters to the Bears proposing the franchise consider a 150-acre former quarry site sitting at the corner of 55th Street and East Avenue, right where two major roads, 55 and 294, practically intersect. The land is already cleared, it's already for sale. And the proposal essentially takes the exact renderings the Bears unveiled years ago for Arlington Heights and drops them right on to this Makuk site, stadium in the middle, parking ringing the outside, with a future entertainment district planned just beyond it. It's bold. It's scrappy. It's a small town suddenly dreaming big. The problem is the math doesn't quite add up the way Makuk would like. 150 acres sounds like a lot until you remember Arlington Heights offers more than double that at 326 acres, and yet Makuk is reportedly asking for roughly the same price tag, somewhere in the neighborhood of $160 million, that the Bears originally paid for the much larger Arlington property. The streets out there are narrow. It's close to Midway Airport, which helps with team travel logistics, sure, but there isn't exactly a robust hotel infrastructure to support tens of thousands of fans pouring in on game day. And the Bears would still need to fully wrap up their Soldier Field lease to even make this a real possibility. It's a sweet, scrappy underdog story, the kind of small town stepping into the spotlight that you can't help but root for a little, especially when you learn Makuk sits along the historic Route 66. But realistically, between the smaller footprint, the steep price, and the lack of supporting infrastructure, this one feels like a long shot dressed up in big city ambitions. So here's where we stand, and it is genuinely one of the most dramatic crossroads this franchise has faced in over 100 years of existence. On one side, you've got Indiana sweetened with taxpayer-backed financing, a stadium authority practically begging the Bears to come sign on the dotted line, and a board of directors vote that insiders are calling close to a done deal. On the other side, you've got Illinois scrambling in its final hours, with homegrown proposals popping up from the south side to a tiny former quarry town most Chicagoans have never heard of, all hoping to convince ownership there's still a reason to stay home. And sitting right in the middle of it all is Arlington Heights, the original dream. 326 acres the team already owns, still technically alive if Springfield can somehow find the political will to deliver the certainty the Bears have been begging for since 2023. What's wild is just how much this entire saga has tested the patience of an entire fan base. We've heard the Bears insist they were finished talking to the city, only for it to come out that meetings were happening behind the scenes anyway. We've watched lawmakers from both parties scramble to draft last-minute legislation before a session deadline, only to watch that session end without a vote when they first put in a bid on the Arlington site, lurching from one possible future to another. Downtown Lakefront Dome rejected, Arlington Heights stalled by Springfield gridlock. Eyes are on whether Illinois lawmakers can move fast enough once the legislature reconvenes in the fall. Because waiting that long might simply be too late for a franchise that has already voted on paper to advance toward Hammond. The Bears still need to lock in an exact site within Indiana, push through environmental and traffic studies, and finalize their financial agreements before a shovel ever touches dirt there. Meanwhile, expect Illinois politicians to keep fighting for some version of a save, whether that's a renewed push for property tax certainty in Arlington Heights, continued advocacy for sites like Old South Works, or even longer shot pitches from towns nobody expected to be in this conversation at all. The truth is, nothing about this saga has gone according to plan for half a decade, so don't be shocked if there's at least one more twist before a single brick gets laid anywhere. Here's the bottom line for every fan reading this who has spent years defending this team's home turf. Whether it's Arlington Heights, a lakefront rebirth on the south side, a small-town quarry along Route 66, or yes, even Hammond, Indiana, this franchise is closer than it has ever been to making a final call. And when that call comes, it will reshape not just where the Bears play football, but the economic future of whatever community lands the deal for decades to come. So now it's your turn. Are you Team Arlington Heights, the original dream that's been sitting there for 3 years waiting on Springfield to get its act together? Are you rocking with the South Side revival, putting the Bears back on the lakefront and turning Chicago's industrial South Side into a brand new football city? Are you somehow, against all odds, pulling for the underdog story out of Makuk? Or honestly, after everything this city has put you through, are you just ready to say fine, take the deal, go to Indiana, and let's move on with our lives? Drop your take in the comments below because I guarantee you this fan base is split right down the middle on this one. If this breakdown helped you make sense of the most chaotic stadium saga in the NFL right now, smash that like button, drop a comment with where you think the Bears end up playing in 2029, and make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on. Because this story is moving fast and you do not want to miss the moment this finally gets decided. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one, and as always, bear down.